Do you think that the person overseeing the session has any influence at all on the outcome of that session? Do you think that some people are more receptive to receiving spirits or guiding them towards?
Yeah, I think some people who what most people would call psychic and don't even know. You know, they're quite sensitive and they haven't a clue. Maybe as they've been growing up, they've seen things that they not sure what, and they've shrugged it off and just carried on. And I think they're not aware, you know, that. And having said that, they can do that and they can draw things in. But with a Ouija board, you get who comes.
There's no filter,
no
control.
No.
So do you think the outcome of both sessions, the ones that I were witness to and Gary participated in, do you think the outcomes would have been different if the venues had been reversed? I.e. me and my boozed up mates at Mains Hall and the people who were involved in the Mains Hall one at a flat in Blackburn with no registered paranormal activity?
Question.
Yeah, what I think is it depends how serious it is. You know, if it's a serious attempt, I think you'll have more of a result. If it's just
I'd have thought
a knockabout.
Just to cut in, I'd have thought if it's like a pissed up jolly where people are having a bit of fun, if I were a malevolent spirit, I'm going to be able to get through their defences and manipulate them more easily, aren't I? Than a serious bunch of folk who, under guise of somebody who knows a little bit about it.
Who know what to expect,
and presumably can shut it down, or has a better chance than me and half a dozen mates to
problem with a Ouija board. When you were doing that and it wouldn't go, what happened? What did you do?
Well, I've got to say, she didn't shut it down because we were to get downstairs for the midnight seance, which was a right bag of pants.
Right.
And she just dismissed us from the table.
Well, that's, now she could have left out there. You must close it down. You've got to close it down because otherwise it's like opening a portal. And you get like a bunch of drunken lads and they'll have a do and they're, is there anybody there and all this. When they're finished acting the fool and then they're having a good laugh and all they've no idea what's there, because more likely than not, if they're having a knockabout do and a laugh and they've had a few pints and one thing and another, more often than not you'll get the malevolent.
The bad buggers.
More than out.
What I would be interested to know though is, do you believe that the results would be different for a bunch of boozed up amateurs in a place rich with spiritual and ghostly goings on, for want of a better term?
Oh yeah, I think if they were in a known haunted place and they're having a do, drunk or sober, I think they would have the fright of their life, probably.
So what about a group of professionals or people who understand a little bit about what they're doing in a place which has no noted experience, no noted history of paranormal activity?
Well,
do you think there's still things that might be passing by?
Absolutely.
Perhaps attracted
at all times. It's just that they'll have a do, say they'll say, oh well, they can't be out in there because it's a brand new built house, and it necessarily has nothing to do with the house.
Well, the land has been there a long time before, hasn't it? So
absolutely.
We're going to move on from Ouija boards now. Listen to our first paranormal podcast. Hope you're enjoying it. We'll be giving an email address at the end, so that if you've any sort of comments or feedback or want to take us to task or tell us we're right, you can do. So let's imagine you've got a Ouija board. You let things into your house. We briefly said at the start that exorcists are available. People will come around within the Catholic Church.
Oh yeah.
Whose speciality it is to drive out these demons. There's been films. The Exorcist is allegedly based on a true story.
And for one thing, you don't rise up on your bed and your head twisting round permanently.
True.
True.
My question, I suppose, my next one, the Church kind of denies to a degree that they do have the exorcism wing, if you like. Could it be that exorcism is a thing for the films? Did that bed really rise? Because it made a great film, it had good special effects, and if that happened in front of you, you'd be terrified. is it possible for somebody's head to turn right around? You know, and there'd be
No,
no physical damage
I-
after. I think is that a bit of a step too far?
I don't believe, you know, the Hollywood films. No, take no notice of them. But there is a section at Catholic churches. There's probably Protestant church.
Yeah, I use
They
Catholics
all
as an
have,
example.
yeah. They do all have. If an house is having people in an house are having hard work, they can go to church. They do have to go. The priests have to go up the line to get permission to come. But there is a team that do come out, but they have to be sure that it's a genuine case.
So you think that is kosher? That's not an invention?
Absolutely not.
Hollywood.
No. Oh no, they do come out. Oh yeah. But it's not Hollywood. But there's a lot of houses, a lot of people in houses, and over years, what's happened? It started off with a feeling in the house. I mean, they may have just moved in, and they may have been in 10 years, but they move in and they'll get a feeling, or they say no, that's like sad and down, and they don't know. It generally starts off like that, and then it goes from there. The bickering, they might get one in a family that's been targeted by whatever entity is there, yeah. And the behaviour, they can go from a bright, happy, carefree young lad or lass, and they're absolutely atrocious, where families thinking they have to get them psychiatric help. They have to. I mean, they go into fits. They go from being a non-swearer to swearing like an avid. Oh, it's atrocious. And all it is, when it's been sorted out, it takes time because they have to be sure that it's not just somebody having them on to come and But it is hard work, and it can be sorted, and it is dangerous. It's really dangerous. People think. Demons. They think it's just Hollywood. They are there. There's documentation. They are there, and they'll prey. Generally, they'll prey on the weaker. You get somebody, perhaps a drug addict or heavy alcoholic.
Just point out if you're listening, because we've got a sensitive microphone, you'll have just heard a groan and a wheeze. That isn't a demon, that's Wolfie the dog, who might end up being the star of these podcasts as well. We're overrunning, but it's good stuff. We'll just go for a few more minutes. Quickly, what are your thoughts on exorcism, Martin? A thing of Hollywood films, or do you believe there is this separatist wing of the church that goes in and...
It is very, very interesting that you bring up films. I'll come to that in a moment, because I can maybe set up a question for the next podcast. Again, I've never seen anything with my own eyes. I've never felt anything in my own presence that suggested that exorcisms are a necessary part of, a part of life. It doesn't seem to be a relevant thing, because I've never experienced it, so I can't really comment either way. I can tell you about a friend of mine who lives up near Glasgow, who it's only about 4 months ago started finding things displaced in her house. And
what kind of things, like what?
Everyday objects, telephone, whereas it'd be on the base, the receiver would be on the base, it'd be off, and there's only her in the house and she's not made a phone call.
Okay. Forgetful? I'd do that.
Possibly. Cushions on the scattered on the floor, as opposed to being on the settee where they were left. No kids, no pets.
Just her
in her house. So that's a little bit strange. And she was looking at getting somebody to help her with that. I don't know actually how it turned out, but she's quite a lucid lass. It's not like she's a wacko or anything.
I'm going to say she's a nuts and bolts person, not a div.
Feet on the ground, so I've no reason to disbelieve what she says.
Be interesting for a future podcast if you find out if it did happen.
Absolutely, yeah. I've not heard from her for a little while, so I'll chase that one up. But on the subject of movies, there's been, right from the 50s, the 40s and 50s, there's been a classic tradition of, I know you're a particular fan of the old horror B-movie type stuff.
Love them to
bits. We were discussing just last night, weren't we?
Absolutely, that's a vibes. Get in.
Oh
yeah.
But moving to the more realistic part, the real world kind of stuff. There's always been an interest, a sort of fascination between Hollywood and the paranormal, the unexplained.
People like horror.
Yeah, everything from UFOs to ghosts to killer clowns, you know what I mean? Come on. Do we not think that the particularly vivid imagery that is conjured up in today's films and the modern market for the paranormal, could that not heighten people's awareness to the paranormal? Maybe even to the point where they're imagining things.
Where it colours the judgment.
Where it colours the judgment, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something.
Oh, this is going to be profound, isn't
Aye.
I think I've touched a nerve here, haven't I?
No, I'll tell you something. What goes on most of the time, you know, like this particular lady you're talking about in Scotland, that's not necessarily something evil.
No. I would suggest that it's just a mischievous rather than a level.
Sometimes, I mean, if you just think for a minute, if you were dead, right, you've still got the same personality. If you were a narc here, when you go over, you'll still be a narc for a considerable amount of time.
You don't turn into a Satan, fair enough. No.
So if you died and you automatically you'd think, I'll go back to our house. So you come back to your house. You
want to see what was going on and be close to the other ones, I guess.
You know, say I'm dead and I'm at Sidey and you're looking for someone, you can't get Gary. It's there, and it must be frustrating that you can't hear me. So I'll do my best and I'll move somewhat to try and draw attention that I'm here.
Just a tip for future, when the time comes, don't actually do that.
Oh, I'll do it all the time. I'll do it all the time. My sister used to say, when you die, Maz, don't come back in a thunderstorm and billowing curtains. I said, of course I will.
That's the only way it could possibly happen.
If you knew Mary, you'd know exactly what
you meant. Yeah, it must be dramatic. I must, I must come back with curtains billowing.
Well, I'd just like to say, in summing up, it's very interesting that you have a perception on that particular side of things as far as like exorcism goes, as far as spirits that need exorcising. And you've just mentioned that if you died, you'd want to come back and have a look at your
and I'd still want to talk to you, so
I guess that takes us back to the afterlife. That all has to be it all has to be under the same umbrella of the afterlife.
Well, yeah.
And you didn't really have that much of a you've got that part of it sorted, what you do when you came back. But the transition is one that's still a bit more
you can't say with any degree of certainty what it's like there, because we haven't been.
Well, we're still alive.
We'll find out one day. That's one thing.
We will, and I'll be able to say, told you,
Well, it's all right if you're coming back moving stuff. We can have you exercised. Well, found out.
Me and my friend have made a pact that when we do die, we're not going over right away. We're going to stay around and aggravate folk we don't like.
Have a little bit of fun.
But let me just tell you, evil is not like Hollywood.